Hi everyone, welcome to the Resilient Podcast, where we bring you baby product reviews, positive parenting resources, and a line of specialty designed pieces for ease and comfort in the hustle of motherhood, so you can live like the beautifully resilient mom that you are. I'm your host, Mika. I'm also the designer and co-owner for Resilient Baby Products. So excited for you to join us today, and let's get into our episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Resilient Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about toddler tantrums, and I guess just kids' tantrums in general. This will kind of be an umbrella for a couple different things. While I was writing the initial blog post for this podcast, I actually had all of my autosave data delete and I couldn't recover it. So I myself had a tantrum when I realized that I had lost about an hour and a half worth of typing, just gone. So it was very ironic that in writing a blog post about having a tantrum, I also had an adult tantrum that I could not recover all of my data. So I wanted to share that with everyone. So today it is nice and cold and rainy in Boston, which is perfect time for podcasting and blogging. But unfortunately, we've had a break in the rain, so everyone's out leaf blowing right by my studio space. So sorry guys if you're hearing some leaf blowers in the background. I will attempt to edit it all out. Anyway, today we're going to talk about toddler tantrums. I'm going to open it up with my personal experiences. I'm often asked by friends and family if we are in the terrible twos yet. And I always tell them we have been in the terrible twos since 11 months and we are still going strong. So tantrums are inevitable and they're a large part of your child's development. It's something that they actually need. That being said, tantrums can make the most docile and zen-like parents feel completely helpless and overwhelmed. I am constantly asking daily for grace to be able to be patient with my son. I want him lots of times to just do things when I give him a choice. I'll be like, Dante, can you do this? Or let's do this. And he'll stand there and think about it for a while. And so badly, I want to just grab the item for him or do what I'm asking him to do. But these are all things, just like tantrums, that your babies really need to be able to fully develop properly. So today I'm going to share some pointers on identifying triggers for your toddler's tantrums and how to effectively navigate through these outbursts. First step today, I want you to breathe a big cleansing breath because you are not alone in this. I'm sure if you guys turned around right now on social media, you would be greeted by an army of frazzled parents just like you, frantically Googling, what am I supposed to do? My toddler is doing this. My toddler is throwing this. My toddler is freaking out. It's such a common thing. So the dictionary defines a tantrum as uncontrolled outburst of anger and frustration, typically in a young child. A tantrum is how a toddler expresses their frustration with current challenges. It can also sometimes be a cry for attention, but that's something we'll touch upon later. The most common is it's frustration. They may be having a hard time figuring out why they were able to get the block into the box and now they can't get it out. That's the most common one with my son. He likes to put objects into other objects and then gets frustrated instantly when he can't get them back out. It's also possible that your little one hasn't fully developed their vocabulary yet, and they're frustrated because they're not able to fully express what they want to you. It can turn into anger, and then bam, you are going to find yourself smack dab in the middle of a tantrum. Some other tantrum causes can be their need to be more independent. It can be limits, either having too many or too few, being hungry or fatigued, not feeling in control, and also too much stimulation or they're bored. Tantrums can range in frequency depending on your child. There's no one size fits all rule here. Every child's different, and it's most important for you to remember that this is how they express their feelings. It is not something that they're doing to spite you. They're not doing it, oh, mom's going out today and make sure I freak out right in the middle of the grocery store for her. And even though we have coined the term the terrible twos, tantrums can start anywhere around 12 months and they usually last between 3 to 4 years old. That's just the average range. It can exist outside the average range and still be normal. And WebMD says that through their stats, 7 out of 10 18 to 24-month-old toddlers throw tantrums, and more than 3/4 of 3 to 5-year-olds have tantrums too. Those are their statistics. We're going to talk next about tantrums versus meltdowns. Is there a difference? So I found an article on the Child Mind Institute about if there's a difference between the two. It says that many people make a distinction between tantrums and meltdowns, though neither is a clinical term. Tantrum is commonly used to describe milder outbursts during which a child still retains some measure of control over his behavior. One benchmark many parents use is that a tantrum is likely to subside if no one is paying attention to it. This is opposed to a meltdown during which a child loses control so completely that the behavior only stops when he wears himself out and or the parent is able to calm him down. So that's great and all, but how do we prevent them is probably your next question. I have spent so much time sifting through tons and tons of resources on how to prevent and diffuse tantrums. Pinterest and Google have been my best friends for quite a while now, and this is going to be my summarized list of proactive steps that you can take as a parent. So I have compiled a list from all the different resources I've sifted through online and through Pinterest, and just given you a nice little list. As usual, all of this is going to be available through the blog post, and I will link that in the show notes so that you can get to all that. So the big ones are going to be to know your child's personality. So for many kids, keeping a schedule of regular meal times, nap times, and bedtimes offers them a sense of what they can expect, which makes them feel more secure, in control, and comforted. But you may have a child that thrives on spontaneity. So if your child seems to get stressed out by schedules, ease up a bit. This can help kind of diffuse a little bit of that. Ward off the fearsome 4, which is hunger, fatigue, boredom, and overstimulation. So avoid overscheduling or planning a big excursion before nap time, and make sure to leave the house with your toddler's tummy full. Cut down on the need to say no. I am the biggest offender of this. So this includes child-proofing your home so you don't have to constantly say, no, don't touch that, don't do that, and setting clear limits. My most common thing to say no to is, no, Dante, don't grab the cat. We have such a hard time with him wanting to grab our cat's tail or putting all of his body weight on our cat. That has been our biggest struggle, but I say no way more than I should. So that's something I can definitely be working on as well. Next one is don't say maybe. In toddler language, maybe means yes. Instead, say yes or no, or negotiate a compromise with them. Encourage your child to use words is the next one. Young children understand many more words than they're able to express. If your child isn't yet speaking or speaking clearly, teach a little bit of sign language to them, such as I want, more, drink, hurt, and tired. As your child gets older, help him or her to put their feelings into words. This goes along with don't say no as much. You can also let your child make choices. So you can avoid saying no to everything by giving them a sense of control, or let them make some choices. So you can ask them, such as, would you like to wear your red shirt or your blue shirt today? Would you like to eat strawberries or bananas? This works at all toddler ages too. My son is 18 months. He's not quite speaking yet. We have some words that we're understanding. He is also bilingual, as I've said before. So we have to say words of things that we pick up in both English and Spanish, because we're not even sure. He might be speaking a little bit of both. So we just want to make sure we're encouraging both with him. But he understands a lot more than I think we think he does. So we ask him a lot of questions, and he's able to respond to questions with actions. So we do ask him, what shirt do you want to wear today? Do you want to eat this or this? So that way he just feels like he's having a little bit more control over the situation. And it's also helping to develop his mind more until he has that full ability, that full vocabulary. Our next one is to praise good behavior. So offer them extra attention when they're behaving well. Give them a hug or tell your child how proud you are when he or she shares or follows direction. We do high fives too when Dante does stuff that's really great. He really enjoys high fives. And my last one is to avoid situations that likely trigger tantrums. Don't give your child toys that are too advanced for them. If your child begs for toys or treats when you shop, try to steer clear of areas where these temptations are. If your child acts up in restaurants, choose a place that serves quicker. We also bring little snacks with us at the restaurant, so you can have a few things to eat before the food comes, but he's not getting full from them. All right, my next big topic is how to parent through a tantrum. This is the important stuff. This is what y'all came for, the goods. Diffusing and preventing tantrums won't work all the time. There are some actionable steps you can take when you are down in the trenches of meltdown territory, as I like to call it. Try to engage your child in a game. It can be as simple as ISpy, which works great in places where waiting is involved. This works on 2 levels. It's distraction, so whatever is distressing your child will likely take a backseat to having fun. And second, tantrums are often a cry for attention too, as well as a response to being frustrated. If your child is too young to really play ISpy, what I do in the car with Dante is like, oh, did you see that tree? Or I will just verbally tell him everything we're going to do today, step by step, so he has that interaction with me. He does not like riding in the car, and that's lots of times where meltdowns happen when I'm driving by myself in the car with him. Number 2 is you can make them laugh. Laughter releases all sorts of good feels, chemicals in the brain, and it will stifle the stress-causing ones. So if you do something silly, they will start laughing and stop thinking so much about what's frustrating them or what's triggered them. Number 3 and 4 is hide and seek. So you could like hide behind their stroller and pop up if they're freaking out, or right around the corner and pop out, just to get them to smile. And that should get you out of the worst of it. Once you have them smiling, you should be able to calm them down from there. Seek is finding something in the distance, so you can like act like squinting and looking and then be like, what is that? It's sneaky and highly effective. I read about this one online. I did recently. I was trying to get ready in the morning and Dante was not having it. He wanted all of the attention. And we had an empty paper towel dispenser, like the dowel, brought it over to me, and we had one of those rolling steamers, like fabric steamers, the ones that are you stand on the ground, they're the larger ones, in our room. And I was like looking through the dowel and I was like, oh, land ho! I found Rolling Steamer Island. And he just started laughing, and I was using a pirate accent, I think, that time. And it was just fun for us. He was interested in the dowel for the next 10 minutes, so I was able to finish getting ready, which was great. Number 5 is to speak softly. So instead of trying to yell over your toddler, oftentimes you can start whispering in a calm, gentle voice. And then as soon as he realizes he's looking at you, he'll usually quiet down to try to figure out what you're talking about so quietly, and that can help you to soothe him more. Number 6 is to stand your ground. I have to use this one a lot. Repeating the same words can help bore the tantrum out of them. So keep calm and don't give in. If your toddler pitches a fit when you won't give him a cookie right before dinner, your response can be concise. Just repeat the rule over and over. We don't eat cookies before dinner. I'm sorry, we don't eat cookies before dinner. The trick is to be consistent and as calm as possible, and try to keep your face and your voice neutral. That way they will understand that you mean business and that they're not going to get a cookie out of you, nor are they going to get any sort of rise out of you. So that is another plus too. Often Dante will want to play with things that are dangerous for him, so I'll have to tell him, I don't want you to do that. You're going to get hurt, or you can't stand on the chair because you're going to get hurt. Sometimes he'll go into full-on fit and screaming, and I always just comfort him and tell him I understand. You're frustrated. I understand that that's fun for you, but it is not safe, and we are not going to do that because you're going to get hurt. And that has actually helped me a decent amount because I'm able to show him that sympathy and that understanding of what it is that he wants to do, but I'm also being assertive in telling him we're not going to do that. And last one is number 7, and that's to hold them. So when a tantrum turns into a full-blown meltdown, sometimes no amount of silliness or reasoning or standing your ground is going to work. If they're that upset, they won't be able to see you or hear you. So you can then rely on our most basic instinct, which is touch. That's how you built the bond with your child when they were first born. It was all through touch and through skin to skin. So you can rely on the power of that to be soothing, especially since losing control is really scary for your toddler. You can pick them up, hug them firmly but gently. And the bonus is that the hug can probably help you too melt any anger that you're currently feeling. The last bit I have is keeping them in a safe space. So if your child is physically out of control, so we're talking hitting, flinging themselves around, You can move them to a safe place, pick them up firmly, but do not drag or pull them. If you're in a public space, you can carry them outside to your car. If it's not practical for that, hold your child tight to prevent them from hurting themselves. Some toddlers also calm down when they're held tightly. I had to do this when Dante was an infant. I haven't had to do it at toddler age yet, but when he would have full-on like colic freakouts for hours, we would swaddle him and I would just hold him firmly, not tight, but firmly, just to calm him down, because at that point he was just so overtired and did not feel well. And I was able to get him to go to sleep that way. So that's what this reminded me of when I read it. Big no-nos here are not to give in and to avoid physical discipline. The big thing about giving in is giving in teaches your toddler that if they throw a fit, that they will get results. You can be understanding and supportive without giving in to them. So if you're in a public setting and you can't get them to calm down, you may need to consider heading home. At home, like I said before, I often will tell Dante, I understand that you're frustrated, that this is what you want to do, but this is why you can't do it. So that I'm giving him some context and he doesn't think I'm just telling him no for no reason. Sometimes it works. Sometimes he's too far gone that all he's hearing is that mommy's saying no and he is not happy about it. And the second one is to avoid physical discipline. So removing totally regardless of what side of the physical discipline debate you're on, my disclaimer is that you are free to parent the way that you feel is correct and the way that is safest for your child. In this one, I don't really care what side of the debate you are on, but it is best to not insert any sort of physical force when your emotions are also running high. So if your child is in the middle of a meltdown and your patience is already being tested, you should not be inserting any sort of physical force at that point, because you run the risk of losing control yourself, and that is never good. You also need to give yourself grace, because I often lose my cool with Dante. I have to step away for a minute because I'm about to yell at him when he's in the middle of a tantrum, and I get very frustrated quickly too. So as a parent, you need to give yourself that grace and realize you are not always going to be Superwoman, and tantrums are going to wear you down too. So be aware also of yourself and how you feel and how your emotions are. Don't be afraid of that and don't be ashamed of that, because we are all human. And as much as we love our children, they can make you lose your cool too. Just make sure that you have a good handle on your emotional well-being too when you're handling tantrums with your child. The big warning signals, this is my last piece. If you feel that your child's tantrums are out of control and they're outside of what is considered the average range, you can always seek a medical opinion. I recommend you do that, because no one that's writing a lot of these blog posts and these different resources, some of them are medical professionals, but they also don't know your child personally. So I wouldn't take what they're saying as the rule, and I don't want you to take what I'm saying as the rule. If you feel like you are overwhelmed and your child's tantrums are totally out of control, I suggest you seek a medical opinion, because it's going to be best for you and for your child, both mentally and physically. You should never, ever be ashamed of that too, to ask for help. So I have a small list here of some red flags that you can look out for in your toddler's behavior, things that might be a little concerning, things that you might want to go to a doctor just to ask about. So if the tantrums are incredibly frequent, like we're talking multiple times a day, every day, if they also have feelings of intense anger, sadness, or helplessness, if tantrums are followed by aggression, sleep problems, food refusal, and separation anxiety, if tantrums are still frequent after age of 4, and if your child is violent to other people, objects, or themselves. Like I said before, don't be afraid to talk to your doctor if you're having trouble controlling your anger and emotions when your toddler's having a tantrum. It is so, so, so important that you are taking care of yourself too. You can't be there 100% for your child physically and emotionally if you're not there 100% for yourself. You do not have to go at this alone. I also have a full list that I found on WebMD that is additional red flag behaviors, other reasons that you might want to consult a doctor. Some of these I already listed off to you, but I will just give you the bullet points. And then if you want to go into the show notes and take a look at this, the links will be there. I'm sorry, guys. I'm having so many issues with my throat and my voice today. So the big bullet points are, like I said, aggression, and that can be towards caregivers, objects, or both, self-injury, frequent tantrums, long tantrums, more than 25 minutes, we're talking long, and the inability to calm oneself after a tantrum. That is all I have for you today. I thought this would be incredibly appropriate because I am currently in the thick of toddler tantrums. Dante is by no means out of control. We do have them at least once a day. They're usually pretty quick. We don't have like full on meltdowns too often yet, but I think that these were really useful resources, and I was kind of able to compile a large list of resources into one post and one podcast for you, so you can kind of get a bunch of different opinions. I have all of the additional resources linked in the show notes, which is inside the podcast. Another resource I really loved is candokiddo.com, I believe. I will link that into the additional resources as well. I just thought about that. I believe the woman's name is Rachel, and she has like a whole program, and she sends you email updates depending on the age of your child with just different tips as far as nutrition and behavior. And I've found her resources to be incredibly useful, so I will also include those. I'm very excited. In the next couple of weeks, I am going to have 2 guests on the podcast, and they're my first 2 guests ever on the podcast, so it's very exciting. We will have Gina Morawski, who was our first mom of the month. She will be joining us to talk about nutrition and celiac, specifically adult nutrition, but she's also going to give us some opinions on things that have worked with her kids as far as nutrition and being picky. And my other guest is going to be Shania Wright, who is the owner of Minds and Cranes. She is a therapist, and she's going to join us to talk about postpartum depression and anxiety, just mental wellness in general. So I'm really excited to have both of them on the podcast going forward. And I think that's all for today. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful rest of your week.